جان. فکر کنم اگه همین داستانو بگیریم تا تهش بریم شاید کار کنه، شاید دیپورتمون نکنه.
ترکسیدیم از همون بازجویی کردم نارم.
Welcome to Scandinavian Films at the Berlinale 2023. I'm Wendy Mitchell. I'm so happy to be here with Milan Alami, whose amazing film Opponent is screening in Panorama. And this is Milad's second feature after The Charmer, which I think a lot of people saw at festivals as well. Can you tell us in your own words, for people who haven't seen Opponent, what it's about?
It's about a wrestler from Iran who is forced to flee the country after some rumors are spread about him. And he ends up in the north of Sweden in a refugee center together with his wife and 2 kids. And he decides to start wrestling again, maybe because the chances of them getting asylum is bigger, to increase the chances. But kind of the reason why he left comes back to him, like haunts him again. So it's a kind of an existential thriller, I think.
That's a good way to put it. I adore this film. I really think it's one of the strongest ones we're going to see in Berlin. I'm not going to say that to everybody. You were a refugee yourself who came when you were a little boy to the north of Sweden. Could you remember some of that time to help you draw out some of these experiences that the family it's a fictional film, but could you draw on your own experience?
Yeah. I was 6 years old, so I have a lot of memories of like details of like how it smelled, the weather, and kind of the feelings that I used a lot when we were making the film. And also when I was writing the script, the kind of feeling of never really having a home and just being like moved around. And all the details with the different homes that you're moved around to. So you kind of notice like, oh, the beds are like this in this place, but then the window is like that. So it's kind of this feeling of being misplaced or like, and there was a lot of those things that I remember a lot from when we came to Sweden that I used in the film. But it was also kind of, those things were really easy for me to access because I think emotionally, like everyone who's experienced it, it's in your body. It's like difficult to forget about it,
I don't think it's a typical refugee story we're seeing in this film, but one thing I liked is, yes, of course, they're going through a very difficult time and they have to move a lot and the paperwork, and it's not easy, but this is a family with love in it and they have a community around them. It's not all bad. And people are nice to them. Exactly. Some people in Sweden. And that's your experience as a boy? Or?
Yeah, I think that, but that's like my way of making movies. I think that, I try to have every character, everyone in the film has to feel as if they're real people, and mostly 95% of human beings are trying to help, especially in that system, but it can be the system itself that is difficult. So I try to kind of have that feeling, and also because I remember it as well, that's why I like the 2 kids in the film. They're like playing a lot, they are happy, they're like, so because that's what I remember from that time, and also that people really wanted to help. But then the situation by itself creates a lot of tension,
Yeah, so, and they're waiting forever and moving forever, and it's, you get the frustration as well. Wrestling, Milan, are you a fan of the sport? I mean, it looks so cinematic, the way you've shot it. But why wrestling, and did you have to research this world of wrestling?
I chose wrestling mainly because it's the Iranian national sport, and I wanted a character who was like deeply rooted within the kind of Iranian, stereotypical kind of male person, and wrestling is so Iranian. It's the national sport, so that was how it began. But then, of course, afterwards I started doing a lot of research, and I hanged out with wrestlers. I was in, in competitions, did casting. So then it started to grow much more on me. But it's a very kind of explosive sport. But for me, what I was interested in was kind of to portray the male bodies and having a kind of intimacy and visual kind of beauty in that sport, because it's usually kind of depicted with like people completely destroyed and blood and very high pace. And there are some sequences here where we're very, very, very slow and kind of observe these people.
It's like a ballet.
Yeah. No, I remember I wrote it in the script that it should be like a dance. It should be like almost like there are some feelings or emotions that are like difficult to express with words, but it's easier to express within that sport.
And your first film, The Charmer, was set in Denmark because you lived in Sweden for a long time, then you went to film school in Denmark, and you live in Denmark now. So why was it important to go back to Sweden to tell this particular story?
I think that, because there was like two things. Firstly, this environment of the refugee center in the north of like Sweden, nothing like that exists in Denmark. So for me, it was, it never was a question of, oh, should I go back and film in Sweden? It was more like, how can I tell this story? And because like that place existed, I had memories of it. So it just felt natural going there. But it's like the films I make, it's usually I go where the story takes me, and that story felt so deeply kind of northern Swedish-like within the refugee story. So yeah, but it was really nice. It was an experience going back, definitely.
And I think the visuals of this landscape really add a lot to the mood of the film. I mean, there's snow, there's forests. Did that help you sort of go a little bit noir? It's not a traditional noir.
No. We talked a lot about that, me and the cinematographer Sebastian Winterö. We wanted to kind of create this kind of like a neo-noirish thing, but still it was different because, as you know, in noir, it's like a character who's gonna like solve a mystery, while here, it's we as an audience who are trying to solve the mystery of the main character. And that's why a lot of like the environment is kind of depicted like it's either pitch black or it's very white. It has these kind of contrasts, and I think that really helped the noirish feeling. But I love noir, it's like I'm trying to do noir in every movie. I never completely succeed, but I'm trying to do it.
Playing with some elements of it, I think that's good. One reason the character can be quite mysterious, it's an amazing performance by Peyman Madi, who some people will probably recognize from Asghar Farhadi's films like A Separation. How did you cast him? How did you work with him? How did you know he could be this mysterious man you needed?
Of course, I knew of him before, and I knew of, I've seen all of those films, and I wanted someone who was like in a specific kind of, category within the Iranian cinema, and I always felt that he had such a screen presence, even when he didn't say that much. And I knew that the character would not speak at all. He wouldn't like talk all the time, and have a lot of stuff like an inner life. And I could see that Peyman could do that. But the way I kind of got in contact with him was through our casting director. One of the casting directors is Zahar Ebrahamis, who was in Holy Spider.
Of course, yes.
So she helped with kind of, getting his contact, and then we started to talk, and he really liked the script. And then it was this whole process of him like, oh my God, I have to wrestle. So he had started, training.
Did he have to bulk up or slim down?
Yeah, he sent images of him like biking and stuff like that. No, but he was really dedicated. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned there's kids in the film, obviously. It's a family. How do you even start to cast kids who you think are going to work on camera? What's that process like?
I think for me it's kind of, when you're working with kids, if you find someone who still has a lot of fantasy and can almost forget that you're making a film, or can play along with a situation without really thinking about it. And these two girls could do that, But it was a long process. We casted a lot of different. But what was funny was that we casted these two together from the beginning. And it was just this like kind of like sisterly thing, and they became really close during the shoot. So they almost became like sisters. So it was really, and I wanted to have this kind of, light feeling between. I didn't want them to feel too much heavy from the parents' story. I wanted to feel more light.
And I heard you got to reconnect with somebody that you might have known as a kid while making the film.
Yeah, it was weird.
Can you tell us about this? It sounds magical.
Yeah, no, it was when we were shooting one of the scenes, and then one of the crew members came and told me that there's this woman here who's in her 70s, and she says that she was your first like Swedish teacher when you arrived in Sweden. And I was like, okay. And then I went and met her, and she had these drawings that I've made, and my brother also had made, that it was said like Milad with really bad letters. And it was true. Then I started to like remember stuff. And she just came there because she'd read the name, and because we were also, like, when we came to Sweden, it was close to that location. So I gave her a small part in the film as well.
That gives me goosebumps to hear filmmaking stories
crazy.
Like that.
It was crazy.
So what's it like, how exciting are you to show this film in Berlin? This is your first time selected at the Berlinale?
Yeah, it's my first. No, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. Also, like, a little bit nervous because now the film will be like in everyone else's film. But I'm also kind of happy that it's being screened with everything that's happening in Iran, and kind of the film has a kind of different meaning now for me. Especially, I'm not going to tell you now, but the way it ends, and there is like some things in it that I did before everything happened in Iran, but now, like, screening it here, it feels like, okay, it will mean something else, and I'm very happy that it's here. I'm also very happy for Panorama because it's a nice selection.
Oh yeah, I think it's a great section for this film. I just want to congratulate you again on it. It's a beautiful piece of real cinema. Hope the audience embraces it here in Berlin and beyond. And thank you, Milad, for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.